Welcome to the Anonymous Andrew podcast. Life and the choices we make. The choices other people make. Why we choose to ignore the red flags. Red flags like gaslighting, cheating, addiction, mental illness, and much more. What role do they play in relationships? Follow me each week as we discuss these topics with anonymous guests and experts to hopefully become better humans, resulting in better choices. Like I say, been there, still doing that. Now on to the show. Anonymous Andrew back with you with another episode. Today I have something a little different for you. Today we have a guest. His name is Tyler Foley. And Tyler is a master of many things. He is an actor, a motivational speaker, and a coach in public speaking. He coaches people on how to become a public speaker. And I found this interesting because podcasting is public speaking. You know, whether you have an audience in front of you, like at a venue, or behind a microphone, either way, you're speaking to the public. So I just wanted to share this episode with you, my interview with Tyler Foley. Enjoy, and we'll talk on the other side. Hello, everybody. Anonymous Andrew back with you with another episode today. Today I have Tyler Foley, and he is a best-selling author of a book entitled The Power to Speak Naked. Hello, Tyler. Good evening.
Hello, Andrew. And yes, good evening, good night, good morning to wherever you happen to be in the world listening to us.
Okay, so Tyler, I know a little bit about your background, but why don't you tell us about yourself while you're here, and I guess leading up to how you wrote this book, or why you came to write this book.
Sure. So I am a former child actor, a father, a husband, a son, a seeker of warm beaches, a lover of fine chocolate, and #1 best-selling author of The Power to Speak Naked. And I got to writing that book very circuitously. I've had a very interesting and varied life. When you start acting at 6 years old, you grow up quick. I am not like most child actors that you hear about in the news. I am like the majority of us out there that are working child actors who don't make tabloid headlines. And it's a very rare percentage that are going off the rails and get the press coverage. You know, hearing that a child grew up normally in the arts does not sell a lot of press.
No.
So I grew up very, very simply middle-class family in the middle of Alberta, in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So most people know us because we are the home to the Calgary Flames, if you follow the NHL and the 1988 Winter Olympics. And I grew up just south of it in a small rural community. And growing up in the arts, I was always in the public spotlight, and I was on stage, and loved speaking. And through various iterations of my life and various vocational choices, I've had 1,000 different jobs. It feels like I've done everything from piano tuning to I was a tour guide in Mexico. I worked for a couple of national airlines. I ran my own business doing aerial surveys. I've been a safety consultant, and now I train people to public speak, and that's how the book came to be.
Wow. Well, it so happens that I found my niche behind the microphone. I started off in college as a DJ. I did some voiceover work myself. But due to, I didn't mention this before, but due to alcohol and drugs, I maybe was that child actor who went off the rails because I derailed my career. And now I'm in IT. But this is where I find my most being comfortable is behind the microphone. I too like to speak, but okay. So what is the book? What's the concept of the book, or the main?
Well, the book actually came to be from a training course that I put together. So, again, one of the many hats that I have worn and actually still wear is a safety consultant. And I do a kind of there's three parts to the business, three divisions. We have program development. So, somebody or a company who wants to develop a safety program, recognizes the need to keep their workers safe, and wants to formalize that into a set of procedures, will come to us and we'll develop and work with them to help create a program for safety. Another third of the business is then auditing already established safety programs to determine if people are doing the thing that they said they were going to do. So if you said you were going to do an inspection every month, at the end of the year, I should be able to see 12 inspections, and we grade and score companies based on their adherence to their own policies. And then the other third was training and developing programs to help instill safety. And those were typical safety programs like, your fall protection and your elevated work platforms and your confined space and your first aid and things like that, where we would train. But I had this one program called Basic Instructional Technique. And really what it was public speaking 101. But if you tell people that they're going to go take a class in public speaking, most people don't show up because they're all terrified to speak in public. So we called it Basic Instructional Technique, and it was designed for supervisors and middle management who had kind of been pushed into a supervisory role, but didn't have the soft skills to really do that role effectively. And primarily one of those things is public speaking, to be able to lead a team and do a kickoff meeting, or do a toolbox or a tailgate meeting, or just even speak to a conference board, or run training sessions themselves. So we called it Basic Instructional Technique. And then as I started to do more keynote speaking and really make speaking my job, and the safety consulting became a side gig to my primetime job of doing this public speaking thing for a living, my agent said that I needed to have a book. And so we took a lot of what I had developed in Basic Instructional Technique. In fact, we actually took video recordings of my training sessions, grabbed the audio from them, transcribed the audio, and then that became the 10 chapters of the book, which is both great and horrible at the same time, because the book is definitely written in my voice. But there are times where I have been reading chapters and I cringe and I go, oh, I can't believe I said that.
I've done that with this podcast. I listen to every episode that I've recorded, and but part of me being vulnerable on this podcast is just I don't edit myself, so I leave it alone. As you were speaking, I forgot that I did a job many years ago. I was a capital campaign fundraiser. I was trained, and we would go to some of the archdioceses around the country. So let's say you were St. Mary's Church or diocese, I don't know, somewhere in New Jersey, and you needed to raise $50 million for a project. They would hire us, and we would go in, and all the parishioners or the people who were part of the diocese, we would pitch to them why we needed them to write $1 million check to the church, Mm-hmm. And I found myself talking to these people night after night after night, trying to get them to write big checks. I actually enjoy doing that. I'm very comfortable besides the microphone, in front of a crowd. And of course, when I go to my AA meetings, I'm speaking in front of an audience too. But that's not everybody, right? Not everybody's comfortable doing that. So what would you say is, so people would come to you to learn how to be a public speaker? Is that?
Yeah. So we have a couple of different training courses, but that is definitely the one that has become the bread and butter, is the Power to Speak Naked and the Drop the Mic training series. where if you feel, that yearning to get your story, get your message, share your expertise with the world, but don't know where to start, we have an excellent program that walks people through mastering your nerves, mastering your messaging, discovering your story, learning how to tell it in a compelling and captivating way, using my experience from almost 4 decades of performing and being able to engage audiences, showing people how to effectively make that messaging come across and stick, and have people leaning in and wanting to hear more.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, keeping your audience captive is key. Once eye contact, I know, is one, and if you start seeing people nodding off, or especially these days checking their phones, you're losing your audience. So, okay, so what would what would be some of the first things that we would tackle? So I come to you.
Yeah. So typically, depending on how we're working together. So if you're coming to one of our large training sessions, it's a little bit different than if you're working one-on-one with me. One-on-one, I tend to do a gap analysis first. Like, where are you at? Because people are coming to me at different stages with different skill sets. And I don't believe in a, one size fits all approach to speaking, because we all come with different tools in our toolbox. And so we need to assess where you're at, what you have, what you may be missing, and then look at how we augment that. It's a little bit different when we do the large group training sessions. So, I run a series of 2.5-day workshops and 5-day seminars where we get to work very intimately with larger crowds. So the 2.5-day course is limited to 200 people. So we cap it at 200 so that everybody has an opportunity to work. And then when we do the 5-day training, that's no more than 80 people, so that you really get a lot of one-on-one with me. And regardless of where we are, whether that's a one-on-one, or if it's the 2.5-day, or if it's the 5-day seminar, or even if you're doing some of my online training, one of the first things I have you do is an exercise to discover your stories. Because some people come going, I have stories to tell, but they're unfocused, or they think they want to tell this one, but they're doing it from an ego play, and it maybe isn't serving the actual audience that they need to serve. So we do this exercise where we break down your 5 key stories, the 5 key moments in your life. And then we do an exercise where we bridge those together. What do they have in common? Who were you before that event? Who were you after event? What did you learn? What did you need to learn? Who did you become? And we really start to develop the story of your life. And the story of your life becomes that keynote presentation, because at that point, you're not trying to sell anything. You're trying to show people a path, show people an idea. So what you're selling is yourself, and nothing sells you better than your personal journey and your story. So we really break down that story method for people and show them how to tell it effectively. Because where the difference between an amateur and a professional speaker is, an amateur is going to come in and try to be the hero themselves, and the professional comes in as the sage or mentor, if you are using the Joseph Campbell hero's journey model. And so where an amateur will come in and try to be Luke Skywalker, a professional comes in and is Obi-Wan Kenobi and shows Luke how to use his lightsaber.
Okay, 2 questions popped into my head. I have a story I want to tell, or I want to become a motivational speaker, or whatever I come to you for. I would think, and I'm thinking the audience might think, the number one fear of getting up in front of a crowd, an audience, would be the nervousness. Which I have felt at times. What's your approach to teaching them how to overcome the nervousness?
Well,
the
the
anxiety.
the first thing that we do is show people how to diagnose that correctly. So many people will come to our seminars, or more specifically, a lot of people will avoid coming to our seminars because they claim that they're afraid of public speaking. And the reality is, most people in this world, it's a very, very, very fractional, small percentage of humans on this planet that are actually afraid of public speaking. If we as humans were afraid of public speaking, or if the 76% of North Americans that are surveyed who claim to have this anxiety around public speaking really truly were afraid of it, commerce as we know it would collapse. You would never have any transactional business ever conducted because most of that is done in public. You don't have a store in your house or you wouldn't have to go out.
Right.
So if you're going to a grocery store, if you're going to a bank, anybody who's ever dined in a restaurant has spoken in public. And if you didn't know your wait staff, you spoke to a stranger. So this notion that we are afraid to speak in public, or that we're afraid to speak to strangers, or that we're afraid to ask what we want is null and void if you've ever been to a restaurant and had food delivered to your table, because you spoke in public, you spoke to a stranger, you asked for what you wanted, and you got it. And if you didn't like it, you had the opportunity to complain and get it fixed. So all of these kind of go in the face of what is commonly preached, and it's a misleading statistic, this notion that 70+% of North Americans, and it goes universally throughout the world, are afraid of public speaking. It's just not true. What we're actually afraid of is public judgment. We're afraid that when the eyeballs are on us,
right,
that we will be negatively perceived, or the things that we say will be misconstrued or misunderstood, or worse, that nobody will be interested, or we just have nothing to say.
I was just going to say, once you get up, let's say there's a podium or your stage, and then you look out and you see anywhere from 200 to 1,000 people, let's say it's an auditorium or something. I think that's when, well, I guess I should speak for myself. The first time I started doing this, that's when I looked out and I said, oh shit. Like you just said, all eyes are on me. It's different when you're sitting at a diner and you're ordering a hamburger. Yes, you're talking to that one person and you're hungry, and but when you look out to a crowd and all eyes are on you and there's that silence and they're waiting for you to start, I think that's where I'm trying to. Most people might think they can handle that, but once they get up on the stage, all bets are off.
Well, and you've proven my point. So when that is the concern, that the eyes are on you, that is proof that it's not the speaking in public that's the fear, it's the public judgment. So the way to combat that is to recognize, first of all, that the audience is on your side. They have, if they've done any prejudgment of you, it is in your favor, because people don't come to anything if they don't want to.
No, they come to hear you.
We are people of free will and free choice. And even in the most negative connotation, let's assume that you have heard, all of your friends have said, don't go see this movie. Right. Like we've all had that movie. You saw the trailer and you're like, that seems interesting. And then the press comes out on it and it's bad. And you're like, but critics don't know anything. Critics are grumpy people who are paid to watch movies, and they don't like my type of movie. And I've never agreed with a critic anyway, so it can't be that bad. But then your friends start going to see it and they're like, oh, Andrew, do not go see that movie. It's awful. And yet still you go to the cinema, you buy your ticket, you get your popcorn, you sit in that seat, the theater starts to darken, and you're like, it can't be that bad, can it? You are already wanting that film to succeed despite all the negative press.
Interesting.
Now, if you are a speaker on stage, the probability is nobody has ever heard you yet. They have no idea what you're going to say, and they don't know what it's about. All they know is that this is a topic that they're interested in. They've paid you, something led them there. You had a good trailer, right? They still haven't seen the movie. They haven't heard that thing. Right. And if they have heard you and they're back again, they liked what they heard. So either way,
Okay.
the audience is on your side. They are there. They're expecting it to succeed. And I can prove this right now, because if there are people who are listening to Anonymous Andrew right now, whoever has downloaded this, I'm speaking to you directly, the listener of this podcast. When you started this episode, did you think to yourself, man, I hope Andrew sucks today, and I hope this guest Tyler has absolutely nothing positive to contribute to society, and I hope he has nothing to say and forgets everything he's going to talk about, right?
No.
Nobody hit play thinking that. Our audience is there. They're on our side. If they didn't want to be there, if they weren't on our side, they just wouldn't show up.
Right.
So the audience is on your side. And if you have the platform, you are the expert for that moment. We don't invite second best to the stage. That's not how society works.
No.
We get the best person available. And if that person cancels, we get the next best person available. That's just how it goes. So if you have that opportunity to be on a stage, you are the expert. You are the authority, and the audience is there to be either entertained, informed, or both. And they're on your side. So if you can go in with that mindset, it's very easy to start to overcome it, because they want you to be there. Right. They're happy to have you. Good point. Any of the negative talk is strictly on you. And that's the other point too. You need to recognize that when you are feeling anxiety around speaking, that is very ego driven, and that's very self-centered and centric to you. The best way to overcome that is to step outside of yourself and focus on your audience. And so that's what a lot of our training does in the seminars, is show people how to connect with and engage with your audience. Because if you're focused on your audience and how they are feeling and what they are doing, it's really hard to focus on you and how you are and what you are feeling and what you are doing. And the best speakers are the ones who can completely and totally divest themselves of their ego, step outside of themselves, and step into their audience and serve their audience. And we've all seen those really good, really powerful speakers who do that flawlessly.
Right.
Those are the ones who engage us the most, because they're not talking about them. Even when they're telling you a story about what they have done, they are doing it, as I said, from a sage and mentor perspective. I can show you how to overcome this. I can show you where your worth lies. I can show you how I walk this path so that you can do it as well and go on your way and combat your demons. And that's that difference between an amateur and a professional speaker. The amateur will focus on me, what I did. And a real good professional, really truly engaging speaker says, this is what I've done, and I want you to learn to do it too.
Interesting. Very interesting concept, because if I got up in front of an audience, which I've done more than 100 times, I never, any of that, what you just said, never crossed my mind. I just get up and do it. But I can imagine somebody doing it for the first time or wanting to do that. I have a question for you, and this might come a little bit out of left field, but you're the perfect person to ask. Over the past 10, 15 years or more, we have seen what they call TED Talks. Mm-hmm. And whether that is what used to be Steve Jobs, or I forget who runs Apple now, Tim Cook, is it Tim Cook? Yeah, I think that's who it is. They get up, or Tony Robbins. Yeah, I'm just naming names who get up in front of people and talk. What does TED stand for? TED?
Technology, education, and something. I can't remember what the D is.
Oh, okay. Because I hear the TED all the time. I hear TED Talk, and then it just hit me. I'm like, what does this stand for? I have no idea.
Originally, TED was ideas worth sharing, was the tagline for it. And it was a very select few group of thought leaders and experts in their field coming together to share new critical ideas in a single stage, right? It was an annual event, and you would come and do it. And now that it's licensed, so I think people forget that TEDx is not TED. It is a licensed use of the intellectual property run by individually owned clubs who use the structure of TED to do these seminar style continual keynote presentations. And they're not TED Talks, they're TEDx talks.
Oh.
So that it's no longer within the edict of the constraints and confines of what that original TED concept was. All these regional TEDx talks are whatever theme they happen to throw up, and are, their selection is based on who submits and who gets past the panel. It's not what it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it has morphed into, it's even, I guess, over, not what's the word? It is flown into social media, because now now the term is influencer, where they get on social media and they spew out their thoughts, and obviously there's no audience in front of you, but it's, if you have 5,000, 10,000, or 1,000,000 followers, they're listening to you. So, but I don't know if they do TEDx talk on social media. I don't listen to them. So,
oh, and I was wrong. It's not education, it's entertainment. So it's technology, entertainment, and I'm pretty sure the D is design. Okay. So it's technology, entertainment, and design.
And that has been replaced with TEDx. It's now TEDx.
Yeah, so TED is still TED, and I think it was headquartered in New York, and I think that's where and I'm pretty sure they still do the annual TED conference. And so Tony Robbins did his TED talk, and I think his is like the second or third most viewed talk. Simon Sinek has a very popular one. Trying to think of who else is I think Brene Brown did a really, 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 really popular one too. There's a couple of, that are the top 5 most viewed, that are like proper TED stages, but most of what you hear now is TEDx, and it's the spinoff.
And they can't use the word, the acronym TED, because it's owned by.
Yeah, TED is TED.
TED is TED.
So that's why it's TEDx. So it's still licensed. It's licensed through TED Conferences. I think it's TED Conferences LLC. And they're the nonprofit that does the international talks. Again, ideas worth sharing. But the TED stage itself is the single one that started. I can't even remember way back when.
Yeah.
I think it was originally, I think it dates back to like the 80s. I think like 1984 was its original one with like the Sapling Foundation, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on the dates, but know that I know enough of it to know the way that the original origin started. But it was an idea. It was a conference to share new thought ideas. You had the thought leaders come and share on technology, entertainment, and design. And then now the TEDx is licensed through TED Conferences LLC. You can't just stick TED on it, but it is not the TED Talk. It's the TEDx Talk, and owned by individual local groups.
Great. Okay. Tyler, anything else that you can offer? Is it mostly you help people that get up in front of audiences, or do you help people like podcasters or radio hosts or other actors? Is it?
Yeah. So all of the above. So anybody with a message who wants to share, we have training programs for them. So right now I'm running a challenge for specifically for authors of nonfiction business books, typically entrepreneurs who have written their own book for highlighting their expertise, who are looking for ways of monetizing that book. Because as most self-published authors know, you write the book, you put it out there, you get it up on Kindle, Amazon starts selling it, your mom buys a copy, your sister buys a copy, a couple of your friends buy a copy, you sell 5 of the things, and that's it. And for those entrepreneurs or self-published authors who feel that there's something more, that they just, if only their message could get out there to a wider scale. We've got a challenge right now to get on 100 podcasts in 100 days. And I walk them exactly step by step how I did it. Because this recording that you and I are doing right now is my 396th podcast that I have done in 18 months. So I'm just coming up to my 400th. And today I recorded 2 already. And I got my 199th and 200th 5-star review from podcast hosts on Podmatch, where you and I found each other. And so I show people how on their own, without having to hire a PR agent, they can find these podcasts. And it's funny because I actually was tagged in. Somebody was asking how if anybody in their Facebook land knew how to get on podcasts without hiring an agent, and somebody had tagged me in it, and they're like, Tyler's doing this thing. And above where I had been tagged, so a couple of posts above that in the comments, was somebody who's like, yeah, I'm running a program, and I was on 52 podcasts last year. And I'm like, 52 in a year? Why were you only doing 1 a week?
Yeah.
And so I show people how literally in 100 days you can get on 100 podcasts and massively amplify your growth. Through just the Podmatch platform. I have reached, let's find the exact statistic for you. I have reached 374,700 listens and 3,401,615 social impressions just through the Podmatch platform, doing 278 episodes from them since April of last year. So, it's entirely possible to be able to get on 100 podcasts in 100 days. And if you can reach 3.5 million people and have over 250,000, between 250,000 and 500,000 listens to your message, I assure you, you can make amazing impact and change in the world. And if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I am busy I run 3 companies. I am an actor still. I've got an 8-year-old daughter who's in the arts, so we're running around doing activities with her. I am doing this in my spare time to promote my book. My search engine optimization is through the roof because I'm backlinked on almost 400 podcasts. You got to remember, podcasts are hosted on the major platforms.
Yeah.
So I'm being backlinked from Apple, Spotify, Google. These are massive tech companies, and I'm getting all of that traffic coming from their platforms through multiple sources. So my search engine optimization is through the roof, and I didn't do anything for it. Nothing. Right. All I did was take a half an hour to an hour of my time a couple of times a week, have wonderful conversations with hosts like yourself, Andrew, and get out there. So I'm showing people how to use podcasts, and then from that pivot from the podcast to find their own stages so that they can start getting their message out and control that messaging, control the money that goes behind it as well. And then from that, do that leap. If they're really passionate about it, if they're really enjoying it, I can show you and put you in connection with the people who do the bookings for the big stages. So if you want to be speaking to the 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people, I can show you the path to do that because I've done it myself.
Yeah. And as myself, when I started off 6 months ago, I started saying, how am I going to find guests? And within a couple of weeks, it's so easy. Between Facebook and Alex from Podmatch reached out to me, but you got Podcast guest.com, and I mean there's have at least a half a dozen websites that I'm aware of that
Oh
you
yeah,
can.
Matchmaker FM.
Yep.
There's dozens of these different services. I just happen to like Podmatch the most because it is the most actively used platform with the most engaged community and with an owner who genuinely cares
It
about
does.
the success of
Yeah.
everybody using it.
Yeah.
And I think that is unlike any of these other services. So, although I am using alternative services, the only ones that I name drop are Podmatch
Yeah.
because what Alex and Alicia and Jesse have put together over there, the fact that I know the owner's name,
Yeah.
have been in contact with him personally multiple times, and know who the tech guy is,
Yeah.
it speaks volumes. I don't know who's behind any of these other platforms, but I know Alex and I know how much he puts
Yeah.
forward with Podmatch. And I think that's, back to messaging and finding what you love. This was a labor of love for him, and you can see it. And when you find your niche, you're golden.
I was contacted by Alex, I don't know, 2 months ago. And as many emails that you get, I just looked at it as another spam or another somebody trying to sell me something. And I was extremely doubtful at the beginning. And Alex kept at me, and I kept asking him questions after questions. Finally, he got me to join, and I sent him the nicest, longest email after 2 weeks because I had 30 guests booked within 2 weeks, and it was just amazing. And anyway, yeah, Alex is great,
and better quality guests too. Like that's the thing. Some of these other services, like I find great hosts on Podmatch.
Yeah.
And I find, I have very few. I mean, I'm coming up 300 podcasts with this platform, and I've maybe had 2 or 3 bad experiences with it. On the other platforms, every other one, if not all of them, are really bad experiences for me. And I am a professional. Like I do this professionally.
Yeah.
This is my job.
Yeah.
This is one aspect of my job, but this is my job.
Yeah.
And so, to be able to find really good hosts like yourself to be on the show, versus like just some of the dregs that are on some of these other platforms. No, Podmatch is my go-to. And like I said, we show people how to use Podmatch. We show people how to use your local chamber of commerce. We show people all the opportunities that they have to get their message out there and really start to become a speaker. And it's important.
What Podmatch has also is several other spinoffs. He's got Pod Pros Community. He's got something I just found out today called Pod's Lottery. Yeah. So he's really, you're right. Him and Alicia have put everything into it, and that's why I found you. So
yeah, well, and Pod Talks too. Like for people who want to get into podcasting, he's got Pod Talks, and you can do the guest or the host stream of the talks, or hop back and forth between the two. And he does that quarterly. I was so humbled and gracious that he asked me to be on the first Pod Talks ever. The first conference that he did, I was one of the keynote presenters on the guest side. So, I will forever sing Alex's praises. I think he's just an amazing human being.
Me too. I wish he would do some of them on the weekends or nights because I work during the day. But I think, but you can watch them after they're recorded, right? Because,
that's correct. Yeah.
I got to do that. So, okay, Tyler. Anything else you'd like to leave us with before we part?
No, just a very heartfelt thank you to you, Andrew, for inviting me on and sharing your audience with me. And I really appreciate it. And if anybody wants to learn more about me, they can hop over to my website, which is SeanTylerFoley.com. And if they hop over there, I'll give them a couple of freebies. They can get a free PDF download of my book, and they can get free access to my Drop the Mic speakers training series, which is 7 videos, 5 minutes long each. And so over the course of a week and over your coffee break, you can learn to be a better, more confident speaker. And so we'll make sure to give those to all of your listeners if they stop by the website and say that Andrew sent you.
Yeah. And I will be stopping by there myself. Please send me an email with all that information so I can put it in the show notes. And Tyler Foley, everybody, the author of The Power to Speak Naked. available. And I am going to mention this because you had mentioned it before. The best place to buy this book would be on bookshop.org.
Bookshop.org is a phenomenal service. So what it is it's an online book retailer, very similar to what Jeff Bezos had originally put up together. The difference is bookshop.org will actually sell you the book for a discounted rate. So my book, it retails for $17.95, and I think on bookshop.org it goes for about $16.50. And then on top of that, a percentage of all of their sales across the whole platform goes to local book retailers. So it's a pooled fund that local book retailers can apply to for financial aid if they're struggling to keep local bookshops alive in your local community. And to this date, they've raised over $25 million, which I think is just awesome. And when you do buy through bookshop.org, they actually pair your sale to your local book retailer. So it's environmentally friendly because you're not shipping it across the country. You're shipping it from your local book retailer. Your local book retailer is going to get credit for the sale. So they've got that little bit of extra revenue, and you get to help support local within your community. So for 1,000 reasons, I think bookshop.org is the best place to go and buy books. You can get my book on Jeff's site, but he's flying to space in phallic-shaped rockets, and I don't think you need to give him more money. But if you want to, you can, and my book can come to you by drone, or you can go to bookshop.org and get it delivered by your local mailman.
You're also a comedian. You're very funny. So thank you. That was funny. Okay. Tyler, thank you for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.
I'm still laughing. Very funny. Folks, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, I was not laughing. I wasn't laughing in my social circle, in my life, anywhere. And if you just listen to the progression of this podcast from episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to, what are we on? 55, I think now. At least I can laugh. I'm not anywhere near where I want to be. I'm not where I should be. And I'm still struggling. But at least I get up and I have a productive day, and I'm laughing. I don't know what the phrase is, but laughter is the best medicine. Something along those lines. Okay. Here comes my begging and pleading. While I do have some reviews that are, I think I have up to, by the time you hear this, maybe, 10, 12 reviews. I still need reviews and followers and subscribers. So I beg of you, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave me a review. Please follow me. And spread the word. And if you want to reach out to me, you know how to do so in the notes. And if you're going to make a choice, people, if you need to make a choice, I urge you to choose wisely. Until next time. Ciao.